You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
All right, folks, we have been covering this story about CBS after the Los Angeles Times reported on Sunday about alleged racist, homophobic, and misogynistic comments made by top execs Peter Dunn and David Friend. Now, those two were placed on leave on Monday after the National Association of Black Journalists, where I'm Vice President Digital, called for them to be fired pending an external investigation. A number of people since then have been telling their story, sharing the very difficult details of how they were being treated there, including Don Champion, who worked as a reporter at CBS. Don Champion joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Don, how you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
So, when this story dropped on Sunday, and it mentioned Yuki Washington, comments made about him, and mentioned the difficulty that Brooke Thomas had to endure. When you saw the story, what was your first reaction?
Anger and a bit of vindication as well. You know, anyone in TV news knows the reputation of David Friend and Peter Dunn. So this was no surprise to anybody. And quite frankly, it shouldn't have been a surprise to anyone within CBS as well. And so it was a lot of anger. And then on Monday, I reached out to some of my former colleagues, and I heard all the fear that still exists because of these two men. And, you know, I'm out of TV now. I work in tech, and I enjoy a certain amount of freedom, and I don't have to be afraid of retaliation now. And so I knew I had to speak up, you know, and say something. And it's been overwhelming. I honestly was not expecting this kind of response. You know, I just wanted to tell my story. It's been a long 3 years since I left, and just the healing that I've had to do. And thankfully, through therapy, I'm at that place in my healing that I've been able to share my story. But I certainly wasn't expecting to have to tell it just yet. But I knew I had to say something. So,
was it their actions that drove you out of the business?
It started with them, yeah. I as I said in my post, the discrimination and bigotry didn't end at WCBS. I went to the network after I left WCBS, and I do believe that my sexuality played a role in my dismissal from the network. And that just tells you how toxic the culture was at CBS at that time. And Les Moonves was still in charge. And the fact that you had people like Peter Dunn and David Friend still in charge, it just added to this toxic environment and culture throughout the company.
Did you ever contemplate suing?
No, I did. I think initially I was just I was in pain. I was in shock. This was my lifelong dream to be a journalist. Anyone who knows me knows as a kid, when I was on vacation, I used to be in my dad's camcorder. I'm Donald Champion, you know. So I was mourning this dream that was lost. Years of hard work, sacrifice. And, you know, I was just so caught up in that. And quite frankly, I was scared, too. I mean, there's so much fear ensuing. And, you know, I hope that that's I know I've had this conversation with Madam President from NABJ, and I hope that there can be some resources, because this is not an isolated problem within journalism. It's widespread, and it affects people who look like me, look like you, a lot more than we know. And so, yeah, I definitely thought about it, but I was too scared. In a way, I kind of still am a little scared, but I am looking into some legal remedies. But I'm just glad the story's out there, and you know, and I feel lucky, like I really do, and I just want that to be told. There are tons of people whose lives and careers have been ruined by these men, and I feel kind of guilty that I'm on my feet, you know, now. But it's taken a lot, and I truly feel lucky.
You talked about how this was triggering, how traumatic it was, and I've talked to others as well. I mean, since this happened, and we've had our phones blowing up, we've had people emailing us and sending us messages on social media, recounting all of the different stuff, comments made, people saying you need to change your hair color, you need to do all of these different things. And I explain to folks all the time, they don't quite get the microaggressions and the comments made in our news business. I've said, and then also the people who then say, "Hey, you shouldn't say anything." And I remember when I said this publicly. I remember when I went on Megyn Kelly's show after the whole blackface incident, and I remarked when I was at CNN when the executive vice president who was there, Ken Jouts, who is still there, who is still a part of the senior management team, made a remark about me saying something, and we don't want to use the words like brother on the air because we don't want to scare away white viewers. I mean, he literally said that to me, and then said that he showed, and it was a pilot I had done with, and I was interviewing then Senator Barack Obama, who had not since running for president, and then told me that he showed the video to his wife and she agreed. I'm sitting there going, ooh, the white wife agreed. And I had people here, and I've been gone for 8 years in April, and folks were like, Roland, you shouldn't have brought his name up. I'm like, why? It happened. I'm like, so why should I carry around, and protect it because they were saying, well, this might hurt you down the road. I'm like, well, you know what? That's the problem. We shouldn't have to wait until we are 70, 75 and write a book to talk about what the hell we experienced. Unless you confront it in the moment, it's going to affect the next journalist and the next black journalist and the next black gay journalist and the next black woman journalist. And that's the problem.
Yeah, no, and that's true. And I think, too, as I look back, I said this to someone else yesterday, culturally, I think as a black person, you don't automatically think of the of the legal system and finding remedy in that. We've been taught that system is not built for us. It's not for us. And so I think that's part of the problem. But I think there's opportunity there. If we started filing cases, one of the things that was so striking to me in that LA Times story was the 2 white managers who had lawsuits, and every black person affected by this was no comment out of the fear. You know what I mean? And that was striking to me. So I think there's opportunity for us to start speaking up, naming names, and taking our cases to court. And hopefully that will change because, there are other monsters in the industry. And I think it's interesting, too, with Peter Dunn and David Friend. They were equal opportunity bullies. I mean, it runs the gamut. I mean, my story is just about a black gay man. There are women who they've destroyed. There are straight white men they've destroyed. I mean, they were nasty. They are nasty people who should not have had this much power for this long.
And so what has been happening is, again, people have been talking. And I think, first of all, before I go to that, because you mentioned the folks who were in the article. And I appreciate them sharing it, but let's also be honest. They carried out what Dunn and Friend wanted. There are other general managers and news directors who have carried out what they wanted. Their actions also impacted, and they're only speaking now because they were also let go.
Yeah. And, I think it speaks to just, these were men who led by fear. And, and I think that toxicity gets into different layers of management, and I know of several news directors within the group who despise David Friend and Peter Dunn and have despised them for quite some time. But, again, these are very powerful men. And I think it's interesting and quite telling that, too, when Les Moonves was in charge, Peter Dunn reported directly to him. And that kind of power, you're afraid of that, And I know that some of the news directors, I know personally, some of them have tried to push back in every way that they can, and that's been difficult. But these are 2 very powerful men. And, I think that was part of the problem. And that doesn't I'm not trying to make excuses for people. But I do know that if he ran the managers like he ran WCBS, it was steeped in fear and intimidation and bullying.
Well, and I think, again, white executives have benefited from white superiors who are also in power because they've covered for them. They've blanketed over their stuff. Remember, that was an investigation of Dunn in 2019. And then CBS announced that changes were made and things were done, and that in their statement they released that, there have been no complaints since. Well, folks said, hell, we're afraid to complain. If you complain, then you get targeted. I was told there was a meeting in February of 2020 with a group of black employees at WCBS with Dunn and Friend about a lot of these issues. And when that meeting was over, every black person in that meeting was targeted, and some were forced to leave the company who took buyouts under the guise of COVID.
Yep. No, exactly. And that speaks volumes to just how they operate it. You can't trust. I have a friend there who feels like they were retaliated against for speaking to the lawyer. So even now, that this case is public and they're being told to go to HR, there are people who don't even trust HR in that building right now because of how the other investigations have been handled. And it's quite frankly, it's sad. It's disgusting.
Well, Don, we certainly appreciate you telling your story. The National Association of Black Journalists, we've made it clear we're not going to relent on this, continuing to put pressure on the CBS. We have reiterated our call for Peter Dunn and David Friend to be fired, for there to be a massive external investigation looking at issues in the company, not only in all the owned and operated stations, but also in other areas of CBS, whether it's CBS News Path, CBS Radio, CBS News, the syndication arm, you name it, all over the country, all over the company, because again, this is widespread culture. And as you said, this is not the only other media company where you have these issues. And to all those other media companies, we're coming for y'all too.
Well, thank you for your work. I appreciate it.
All right, Don, thank you so very much.
Every single night, we've got some of the top black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he's the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Cedrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patal Salt, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward. Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris. Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Spriggs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Bradeboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she's a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with The Root. Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malvo, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon McDougall, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi, Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.